Something about this week feels like a breaking point, not in a dramatic, chaotic way, but in a deep, unmistakable way where you realize your body can't keep holding this storyline anymore. There's a version of you that your nervous system simply cannot keep carrying forward. And this full moon in Gemini is the moment where that becomes undeniable. We've been orbiting or prancing around this decision for weeks, maybe months, maybe even years. And Mercury retrograde brought the refining and the reviewing. Venus opposite Uranus brought the discomfort and the boundary checks about these underlying patterns and themes that we have in relationships and relational dynamics. Saturn retrograde in the last degrees of Pisces has been asking us if this is really the type of energy that we want to bring forward with us when Saturn finally moves into Aries. But now with Mercury, the ruler of this full moon direct, Saturn direct as well, this full moon in Gemini squaring the nodes of karma and fate and evolution, there is a choice that is being asked to be made right now. It's a line in the sand between the version of you before this full moon and a version of you after this full moon. And it is asking you to choose something steadier, to choose something more aligned with who you are now. You don't have to overhaul your life during this full moon in Gemini. You just need one conscious decision that says, I'm done carrying this version of myself. So let's talk a little bit about the energies that are happening in the sky during this time. This full moon is happening at 13 degrees of Gemini. So sun's going to be at 13 degrees, moon's going to be at 13 degrees. It's going to be December 4th, where this is happening around 5:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And the first thing we notice here is that this is squaring the nodes. So the nodes are about karma, they're about fate, they're about evolution. And there is some tension here. I mean, really, this is like a grand mutable cross, but the points or the nodes are not necessarily actual planets, they're points. So a lot of people don't count that, but on an energetic level, it's going to feel a little bit like that. So it's going to feel like there is a crossroads that we're being asked to make a decision. And the South Node in Virgo is asking us to release perfectionism around what kind of decisions we make, right? And this is really the most liberating part of mutable energy, is that there is no correct choice. There is no correct choice. There are infinite possibilities. North Node in Pisces. And our minds make us believe as though there is a right and wrong choice. And that is never true. We don't know what another option could lead to, and we often romanticize what that other option could have looked like when we don't like the decision that we made, but we simply do not know where that could have gone. It's just a conjecture, right? It's just what we think we could have done. So that to me is the most liberating part of this full moon. Our nervous systems, ruled by Gemini, are saying we cannot hold this anymore, right? I mean, the Mercury, the ruler of this full moon, has just gone through its retrograde. And it's been showing us where we literally need boundaries, right? Venus opposite Uranus shows us boundaries that we need, the dynamics that need to end in our lives in order for us to be able to relate in a new way so that we can move into this future version of ourselves. And now, after a frazzled, I feel like a lot of us are frazzled. We're tired of the evolution we've had to go through, the exhaustion, the transformations that we've had to go through. And sometimes that's exactly what we need to hit that breaking point, to say, I can't keep living like this. I need to make a choice. And there is no right choice. I can't be perfect. I can't make the right choice. And there is no wrong choice, simply possibilities. And I think what can really help us during this full moon is to recognize this Sagittarius energy, right? Sagittarius is an archer. It has an arrow. Where do you want to point your arrow? Where do you want to find meaning and purpose in your life? And how can that, and what vision do you want to hold? And how can that be the decision that you're making? Or how can that inform the decision that you're making? On December 6th, I'm doing a workshop called Co-Creating the Cosmos. We're going to be talking about these themes exactly, how to find the parts of the chart in my framework that I look to when I think about how do I dance with the cosmos? How do I listen to them? They listen to me. They take a step. I take a step. What are the parts of the chart that really show us what it is that we're here to create? I'm going to go through it by the elements for these houses so you can apply this to your chart immediately. And then we're going to even talk about the human design aspect that will help us know how to start doing this right away. I'm going to give every single human design type a practice that they can leave with, that they can start doing. It's going to be amazing. And just so you know, anyone who signs up before December 6th will get an offer of an exclusive offer for my inner revolution immersion that I'm doing in January. So this workshop is going to give you so much value by itself, but it's also going to open the doorway for something even bigger and greater for those of us who are really sitting at the threshold of an identity change and need to know how to decondition the old self and condition ourselves back into a space of remembering the true self. So I'm really excited, if you can't tell, about this workshop. December 6th, I'll have the link in the workshop down, or in the description down below. It will come with an extensive workbook. My workbooks just keep getting bigger and bigger. This one's like 28 pages, loaded with really helpful information, not just a bunch of like blank title pages. Anyway, I'm excited for everyone who's already signed up, and I'd love to have you there as well, because these are the kind of things we'll be talking about. Like, what is the vision? What is the meaning? What is the purpose? And how can I create something? How can I create my life to fit that vision and have the cosmos help, right? I think a lot of us are being inspired during this full moon and leading up to this full moon on who it is that we want to be, simply because we cannot continue being the old version of ourselves. Right, Mercury is direct now in the sign of Scorpio. So this is some deep work that we're doing. And it is in a part of this grand trine that is happening still. Let me clear this up a little bit. We've got this grand water trine we've been talking about for a while. I have a video about just that, but also other videos referencing this too. So we've got Mercury here, Jupiter here, and Neptune and Saturn here, creating a grand water trine. The good thing about this full moon is it's giving us enough friction to be able to make a decision, right? Because I've talked about grand water trines can sometimes just feel kind of like we don't really feel them as much. But they are doing a lot of work on the emotional realm, integration, if we can allow the silence for that to happen, okay? So let's talk a little bit about the human design as well. This is happening in gate 35, line 2. It's actually line 2. And the sun is in gate 5. So this is a gate of fixed rhythms. Gate 35, so gate 5 is a gate of fixed rhythms. And then gate 35 is a gate of progress, of change, of evolution. So that's the tension, right? This new version of ourself that wants the fixed rhythm and wants to kind of fit into a new pattern. And gate 35 that wants evolution. Now, what's interesting about this is Saturn's also in gate 36, which is creating this whole channel. So as we know, full moons can often be a time of, they can be a time of emotion, right? The moon, our unconscious, is illuminated. Things can feel chaotic. Things can feel emotional. This is why we generally say it's a day of rest or a day of release, being kind of mindful about what we're doing, being illuminated. It's a culmination of something, right? So if we think back to even 6 months ago when we had the new moon in Gemini in May, what has happened in the Gemini part of your chart since then, right? We're seeing the culmination of this. Maybe it is that identity that you've built. For me, I know I'm a Gemini sun, and that was around the time that I left my career as a pharmacist. So that was a decision I made, and I'm seeing the culmination of that. But during that process, so maybe you made a decision, and during that process, now you're seeing the culmination of this, but now it's asking for the next step, for you to step into this identity, this new identity. In my immersion in January, we're going to talk all about identity alchemy and kind of the importance of that as well, and some neuroscience, all this stuff. But yeah, just knowing that now it's about like, what's that next step so that you're not just changing your behavior, but actually changing your identity. But yeah, because this is activated, the solar plexus is our emotion, the throat center is expression and manifestation, meaning that this is an extra emotionally heightened new moon, or I'm sorry, full moon. So culmination, release, chilling, right? Now on the days leading toward this full moon, the sun will actually be in gate 9 and Earth will be in gate 16. And there's a reason why I'm saying this, okay? Because I'm making this video before this full moon. So leading up to this date, from I think the 27th to the 3rd, this is where the sun and Earth are going to be, and then they're going to move. Gate 9 is a gate of focus. Gate 16 is a gate of skills. And the gates are just from human design, and they are breaking down the zodiac into smaller pieces. So gate 9, gate of focus, and then gate 16, gate of skills. This is the perfect time to start something new, to take one step towards something. My son is in gate 16, so it's a huge part of my life. And one of the things that gate 16 is about is like repetition or mastery through repetition. I have a video revisiting the past to Remember Your Magic. It came out a couple weeks ago around Mercury retrograde. And I did a cold read of the Gene Keys book, and gate 16 came up. So if you want more information, you can definitely go there. But it's repetition through mastery. Why do I keep saying that? Mastery through repetition. And gate 9 is a gate of focus. It's the taming power of the small, okay? I actually have that hexagram right here. And it really speaks to us just taking one step. So leading up to this full moon, while the moon is waxing and powerful, it's a great time for us to take that first step. And then when the full moon actually comes and we've got these two centers defined and it's very emotional, we're not having to make a decision out of that emotional chaos, that emotional intensity. If you don't have your human design chart, you can get a free chart on my website, and you can also get a report too if you'd like, but the chart will show you if you have this center defined or not. And this center is the solar plexus. It's the emotional center. Specifically for people who don't have that defined, when it gets defined in the sky like this, it can feel quite intense. And so once again, rest, let the illuminations arise during this full moon release. But leading up to it, it's a great time to take that first step. In the Gene Keys, the shadow of gate 35, where we have this new moon, is hunger. And the gift of it is adventure. And I also have this gate in my chart. Hunger is really related to dopamine. And adventure is really related to serotonin. There's this book that I really like. I've honestly thought about like breaking this book down because I like it so much. And it's called The Hacking of the American Mind. Look at these are how a lot of my books look, by the way, because I will take them to like the beach with me. I'll take them everywhere. I'm notorious for always having a book with me. Ever since I was a kid, I would just carry books around. Even if I didn't read them, these are just like this is like my teddy bear, you know? But in here, he talks a lot about dopamine and serotonin. And Richard Rudd also in the Gene Key book talks about serotonin associated to gate 35 too. But what can come up during this time is like this desire for hunger, which is can actually breed a lot of addiction. When you have this in your human design gate, it can be an addiction to the intensity of something. That can be with food, it can be with substances, it can be with certain acts that you become addicted to get that dopamine. I want to read a little bit about what Richard Rudd says about the gift of adventure, though, because I think it's very, very fitting. And, when I think about this full moon, I'm thinking, and the shadow of hunger, this can be very, very restless energy, right? Gemini is perception. I love Gemini. Gemini is one of my favorite signs. I'm a Gemini. I know I'm biased, but I didn't always like Geminis. I didn't always like being a Gemini. But this can be restlessness, right? Gemini being the nervous system in a tense aspect to the nodes opposing the sun. Oppositions are also my favorite aspects. I know that a lot of people struggle with them, but I could teach a whole course on oppositions because I just love them so much and they relate to so much of what I do in shadow work as well. I talked about that in Mapping the Shadow, but I would love to talk more about it. Richard Rudd says about the gift of adventure, gate 35, he says that adventure is what happens when the human spirit breaks free from the mind, which is interesting because this gate is in Gemini, right? Which rules the mind. Adventure is a state of being that comes from the realization of the oneness of all beings. Adventure is not yet immersion in that oneness, but it is what it feels like to swim within that oneness. Oneness cannot be known mentally, even though it can be logically deduced. Oneness can only be felt when enough serotonin is produced within our bodies. It is not simply a matter of pumping more serotonin into your body that creates the experience of higher frequencies. Higher consciousness comes from the delicate balance of chemicals in highly specific quantities and cocktails. This is the great adventure that you take as the 35th gift arises in your inner being. You enter a process of alchemical co-creation within your own body. As you raise your own consciousness through love, these delicate chemical matrices begin to spontaneously form within your physiology. It is a natural evolutionary process of refining and distilling your inner essences through the endocrine system. This is really interesting. And the reason why I brought up this book is because he talks about the 4 C's of serotonin. He says they're connect, cook, cope, and contribute. So I'm not going to go super into the 4 C's and all of that, but I wanted to offer that to anybody who's interested in learning more about dopamine versus serotonin. I think that book is really good. And I love how Richard talks about the co-creation of life happening when we not just pump our bodies full of serotonin, right? There are things that we can take to pump our bodies full of serotonin, but when we achieve that inner alchemical process of oneness through love. That's why in my Venus opposite Uranus video, I talked a lot about the dynamics beneath the relationships. Sometimes relationships got to go. Absolutely. Sometimes it just doesn't work. And sometimes we can see that there is a pattern that we're repeating there. And even if we choose to let that person go, we can do so with love, with oneness. How is all of this related back to this decision that you have to make, right? This decision that your nervous system is asking for you to make during this time. Well, number 1, it's about creation, right? I love this. So we hear Richard Rudd talking about creation. We hear about my workshop, Co-Creating the Cosmos, finding the rhythm, right? Gate 5 being activated in the sky during this time. A place of natural rhythms, finding your own natural rhythm. That was my theme for Mercury retrograde, reclaiming your rhythm, right? How do we create and co-create within our own bodies and with the cosmos? This decision that you're making is, oh my gosh, that's crazy. This is a 2 card. So now we have the Ace of Wands and the 2. So you're not just having an idea, you're planning an execution, and it's something creative. It's something spiritual. Creativity is not just about art. Creativity is about creating an experience, right? When you have a conversation with somebody and you want to create a certain experience in that conversation, you're creating. Every moment is an act of creation. So we have not just the inspiration, but we have the planning and possible execution, knowing that the possibilities are limitless and you can't do it wrong. You simply cannot do it wrong. And this is where Sagittarius comes into play. The Sun in Sagittarius, Venus in Sagittarius, Mars in Sagittarius is opening your vision to what is possible. right? I love Gemini energy, and its curiosities and its openness, but Gemini is here and now, which is also really great. Sometimes we need that balance of how can I be here and now and see what's going on, and taking this information while also taking into account the vision. Let's just get one last card that that we really need to give to the collective that's watching this for this full moon in Gemini, and the decision that they're making, this evolution, this progress that we're going through, not from a state of hunger and addiction, but from a state of our center and knowing what it is that we want in this world, right? I have a creative rewilding kit that is that I often give to my clients, because I have a lot of people who come to me who are blocked creatives. And by the way, creative rewilding is something that's coming later next year. So for anyone who is interested in that, bringing their creativity back online in a really big way, that's going to be really cool too. I've got a lot of plans and I'm really excited to share them with you guys. But co-creating the cosmos will be a great doorway to all of that. Okay, I know I'm shuffling a lot, but it feels like I just need to. Yeah, the Tower. But see, what I love about the Tower is that it implies there is a weak foundation of something. This is a Uranian energy, right? Uranus is electricity. Gemini is the nervous system. Uranus is back in Taurus right now, but it's going to go back into Gemini. And right now, this is why I talk about nervous system stuff so much. This is why all my work is informed by the nervous system. I don't just like want to dump information on people all the time, because we're entering a time period that our nervous systems are really going to take a hit, and we need to learn how to take care of them. Anyway, my point is that this is literally your nervous system saying, I can't keep holding this. This is a breaking point. You made a decision possibly with a new moon in Gemini in May of 2025. Now I'm going to need you to take that next step, please, so that we can fully move into this new identity. What's one thing you can do to move into this identity? I want to know in the comments below, what is that decision? What part of your chart is Gemini in? What did you decide in the past 6 months that is now coming to a fruition, that now your nervous system is saying we've got to make a change, because that old version of you, the foundations have gotten really weak and it's time to rebuild something. Thank you so much for making it this far. I'd love to hear your comments down below. I'd love to see you December 6th at Co-Creating the Cosmos. I'll have the link in my description. I'll see you guys next time.